Hey, everybody, your designers are here.
I'm Anita at Cedar Hill Farmhouse.
And I'm Yvonne at Stone Gable.
And I'm Kelly at My Soulful Home. And we've got tips and tricks and decorating advice for you today. So let's get started.
Hey, everyone. Today is episode 168, How to Give Your Home an Old Soul.
Oh,
That's
I like
going to be an
this one.
interesting topic.
I think it's a fun one.
Yeah, and I think it's something that a lot of people are interested in because antiques and vintage items and repurposed things are so popular these days. And depending on the type of home you have, you might find it a bit challenging to incorporate these things. And you might find yourself in a brand new build, or you might find yourself in a more contemporary house that you're redoing. Or you just might be in a house that you've been in for a while and you decide that you want to change it up a little bit and add some of these items that have more of a time-worn look. So today we're going to cover all kinds of advice on how to achieve that.
Yeah, and I think the first tip I'm going to throw out there is not to go overboard. You don't want to have the look in your home like Victoria and Albert are just going to walk in at any moment.
But I would welcome them.
I know. I would love to see
And isn't
them.
she just the cutest little actress?
Oh my goodness. And I hope they come with Dash.
Oh, Dash. Dear
I know.
Dash.
I love
I
when she
know.
says Albert.
Are you not caught up? I don't want to say.
No,
Yes,
I know what happened. No, I am behind.
Don't, no
Listen,
spoiler.
You don't need to see it to know that the dog is no longer with
Yeah.
them.
I saw that.
Well,
But someone watching, listening doesn't know. Right. No, I know about Dash. May he rest in peace. But right. So you don't want to go look at some time period and replicate everything exactly. It's going to look out of place in our day and age. So I think one of the tips is to add things judiciously, add them in bits and pieces and not to try to replace everything in your house with, if you're in a Victorian house like Kelly. I think she's done a great job to honor the architecture of her home. She has some pieces in her house that obviously there's some Victorian elements in her house, and she has some antiques, but she's mixing them with new things as well.
Yeah, the gentleman that we purchased the house from, he would have loved it if I just kept it, well, as he had it, but he had a kind of like old man leather couch with a doily on it, some weird mashup, but he would have really enjoyed it if I, charged admission and it was a Victorian museum of sorts. So he would not have liked to see all the white paint.
But Kelly, you took something that has a definite style, like an older style, and you honored the old and you brought in the new in a nice mixed up way that is you, in a way that you and your family can live with.
Right. So you don't want your house feeling like a museum, like it's outdated. And there is very much a way that you can take these old pieces and incorporate them into a new look. And I think that's something that we should talk about, is what types of things that we suggest that because vintage or antiques, that's a huge category of things. So another tip, another idea I have for you to use the new and the old is to find an old chair that you love. You love the frame, you love the wood. Maybe it needs to be painted, but you love the shape of it. It's probably hand carved. Get one that's sturdy and then redo the fabric.
That's a beautiful look.
Yeah, so get an updated fabric on there.
Yeah, and when you're dealing with all the materials in the home, whether it's flooring or stonework or countertops, do your best, and within your budget, go for the real thing, because there ain't nothing like the real thing, baby. And that is
tip of the day.
Yeah, and that's going to transcend the ages, but it's also going to have give your home this very authentic feel. That would be my suggestion.
And here's mine. Mix up different times. Like, you don't want to, in your house, you have some French, you have some Victorian, you have some modern, but the pieces that you have, like you have a beautiful settee that has French lines, but it's in a graphite linen, which is so beautiful and updated. So And I know that you have like a door going into your dining room with a wreath on it. That looks a little more Victorian to me. So you have a real good mashup, because if you go for all one period, it starts to look a little museum-ish.
And on that note, I want to say a little note about dried flowers. I think you have to be careful with too much of that, because that can really look like it belongs in the past. If you have too much, they can really look faded and old and, I don't know, just kind of sad. So be careful. I mean, so I'm not saying don't use them, but just be careful about not overusing them.
I so agree. There's so many other beautiful living things, like a plant in a very cool chippy urn or something that you could use that will bring life to your home and not look like, okay, well, this is all dead. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I'm pretty strong about that. Sorry.
Pretty strong about the dried flowers. Mm-hmm. So really more like the dead flowers. Yeah. No dead flowers for anyone.
Except like some pretty lavender done really nice. Something like that is classic. Mm-hmm.
And I like to incorporate old things in a house and use them in a completely different way. I think that makes it feel fun and lively, but it honors the old.
Well,
so,
give
for
us an example.
Okay, so my example is I found out in a garden shop near my house a rusty old iron garden post, and I ended up pulling that and using it as my newel post for my stairwell.
Brilliant.
So not the way it was intended to use originally at all.
Right. So you're bringing in some old, but you're using it in a new way. And that is really a very fresh and contemporary way to incorporate old soul.
Right. And then when I do chairs, sometimes I reupholster them, some old antique French chairs that they would have been, which were originally covered with tapestry. And then when they took them apart, there was actually horsehair in them. I mean, that's how old these chairs are. And so we completely gutted the chairs and put fresh foam, new innards in there. And then I put on a lot of times I use grain sack fabric, which is maybe the same age of the chair, but it's something they would have never put on a fine chair because they would have seen it as too everyday and too common.
Too utilitarian.
Right. So that's another way to do it, is sort of the mixing the high and the low.
And listen, even if you have a house like mine, and I must just say these girls are just going to gasp, I don't have very much vintage or antique anymore. I've gotten rid of most of it.
Right.
And, but I do love architectural pieces, pieces of molding and corbels and things like that. And I buy them and I use them throughout my house. Like right now, I just redid my, fireplace for winter, but transitioning into spring. And I have this great corbel and I just keep bringing it back because it's such an huge, big, fun, interesting piece that adds so much to that part of my home. I love chippy shutters. That's very architectural. Right.
And I think of aren't you doing something with subway tile soon?
Yes, I'm redoing my kitchen backsplash.
Right. Well, I think about the early 1900s when I see subway tile. I know it's super hot and popular now. Some people are saying that it's taking the slow train out, but it does remind me of this time 100 years ago when it was quite popular. And then the hex tiles too, which I love.
Oh,
remind me of the 1900s.
Penny roll tiles. I love those. Yes, I agree with you. But what I'm saying, if covering a bergère chair is not your thing, or you just don't have the energy or whatever it is, you can do little things like I still have and keep and love an small ironstone pitcher that I have filled with a silver flatware. Just something so beautiful. It's all some of it's even a little rusty. It needs to be polished, but it's so pretty. And, I love ironstone. So it doesn't have to maybe be something as big as a chair or a door or a piece of your home, but it's just something as charming as an ironstone white pitcher.
Yeah, absolutely right. And if you really want to go for the instant character in a room in a big way, I think an antique in each room is the way to go. and it can be mixed in. And like if, Yvonne is saying you could do it in smaller ways, and I agree with that as well. But if you really want to go for the instant old soul, there's probably no better way to do it economically and in a big way than adding an antique piece of furniture. You can do it in a structural way by adding sort of like tongue and groove wall, siding your wall with some tongue and groove wainscoting or beadboarding. You could do wine plank flooring, but obviously all that's going to cost a little bit more, and it would depend upon where you were in your decorating of the home. If you're able to redo all the floors and you want to have the old soul look, then go with reclaimed wide planked flooring if you can.
So beautiful.
Yes. Yeah, but if
now
you're
that
already,
is going to be an investment.
Yes, right, exactly. But if you're already in there and you're just wanting to change things up a little bit, go for an antique and see if you can get one in each room. It could be a little side table, it could be a larger piece, but that's going to add some real interesting instant character.
So, and I wanted us to be a little specific too about the type of vintage and antique things to add to a home. So one of the things I think that goes with any house, I think it would work very well with Yvonne's, I would say, more transitional style, and that is to use old books. There's nothing like old books in your home. I think they look like
I use them and cover them with burlap.
Well, or you can cover them, but you don't have to.
No, and they are beautiful. And you can turn them backwards to see the aged patina of the pages if you don't want all the different leather.
Well, it just depends. Like if you're going to be reading them, that wouldn't work. And we actually have, my father-in-law was the dean of a seminary, and we almost sold his books to a theological library. I'm so thankful at the end we didn't do that, because I have all these old books, and a lot of them are first edition, something out of print, a lot of different languages in Hebrew and Greek and French and all these German. And it's a fascinating collection of old books, and they're just beautiful. I mean, some are poetry books, and some are his books from when he was at college. So
that's a gift to have those. I have my great grandfather on my mother's side. I have he was of Polish descent, and he was a poet, and I have all of his books with poetry in it. And then when he came over to this country, I have all of they're like little books from Ellis Island that say who he was, who his parents was, where he came from, what his occupation was there. And then I have just journals that he would write, and they're all in well, no, wait a minute. Maybe it was Hungarian. Yeah, because it's my grandmother, so it was Hungarian. They're all in Hungarian. So they look so beautiful in a cabinet. Now, they have meaning to me, but I'm sure you could pick these things up that wouldn't be that expensive. And they just look lovely sitting in there. And I open them up with like the beautiful handwriting in them.
Oh, how nice. See, that's such a beautiful way to add old soul to your house.
And someday I'm going to have all of them translated.
Oh, well, and see, this is another thing I want to mention when we're talking about vintage things, old things, giving your home an old soul. Anything inherited is usually something fun if you can keep it. And I don't have these displayed, but I have some family member, the old ration books from World War II and letters that were written during World War II.
Wow.
And these are things that I just love having. But sometimes it's something you can display. I actually have in our guest room my mother-in-law's wedding dress hanging, and I just think it's a fun little thing to have in the room. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually have this it's not so little, it's a pile of letters, and I found it at an estate sale in this old trunk, and it was letters from a young man to his aunt, and he was in some war somewhere, some far-flung place. You couldn't really exactly discern. I think it was someplace in South or Central America, because I read a lot of the letters, and they had this exchange back and forth, and he was explaining to her how his job was to take the truck to go each day to get the ice to keep the medicines, because I guess he was some sort of medic, and he would have to drive over these roads, and the letters go on, and then her letters back to him, and just the handwriting with the ink. So they came in bundled in a stack, tied with a ribbon. So I just have them out on one of my side tables in my living room. Yeah, they're just so beautiful. And I really took the time. And one time, I don't remember what afternoon I did. I said, today is the day I'm going to sit down, and I read them all. And it was, I was just completely transported. I love old letters like that, or the old postcards. I could spend hours trolling through those postcard tables at the Rose Bowl and various places, and just all the pictures and then the little notes written on the back. I just love that.
Oh, wow.
Don't you just love a great recommendation from a friend? Well, we're delighted to be recommending these companies and their wonderful products to you today. And let them know your friends at DTT sent you. Pesto pork chops over Parmesan polenta. Not that easy to say, but oh so easy to make with Green Chef. Green Chef is the #1 meal kit company for eating well, and we have such a great deal for you. You're going to save $250. Listen on for the details on that. Green Chef makes eating well easy for any lifestyle, whether you're keto, paleo, vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, or just looking to eat more balanced meals. We're getting into the busy holiday season, so it's a perfect time to have Green Chef help you out. Let Green Chef take the work out of eating clean this holiday season with their chef-crafted, nutritionist-approved recipes featuring fresh ingredients and nothing artificial. And you know what? You don't have to lose track of your healthy eating habits during the holidays. Every Green Chef customer gets a free session with their registered dietitians who will walk you through how to make clean eating work for you. So sign up for your free session and start on the road towards better health today. And the deal I want to tell you about, visit greenchef.com/DTT250 and use the code DTT250 for $250 off your order. So that's greenchef.com/DTT250 and use the code DTT250 for $250 off your order. Go ahead, clean out your closet, then head straight to Quince. I love every item Quince offers, from wardrobe to decor, and I can really recommend their Ultra Stretch Super Wide Leg Pant at $49.90. The price is unbeatable, and the look is so flattering. It keeps you in on top and flares out of the bottom. Everything feels right with Quince. The price, the quality, and the sustainability. Quince offers a range of luxury wardrobe and home goods at prices within reach. And like Quince's clothing, their home goods are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices, along with premium fabrics and finishes. Once you've cleaned out your closet and refreshed with Quince, you can also add something to your home decor. So give your wardrobe and your home the refresh it needs with Quince. Go to quince.com/DTT to get free shipping and 365-day returns on your next order. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/DTT for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/DTT. And let me know how you love those pants. It's great to do the vintage postcards too. They're very inexpensive. If you find ones of either where you live or maybe a place that was special to you, where you went on your honeymoon or wherever, or a city you want to visit, Paris, New York, something like that. Those are great just to have around. You can put them, there's so many cute ways to display them, but you could put them in inexpensive frames. You can make a collage out of them. And that's a really inexpensive way to add some old soul to a house.
Yeah. And adding to that idea, one of the things I did was I bought a copy of a very old map of Paris and then had it mounted and framed. So you can go for an old map. And I've even seen some maps where some places you can get it where it's a big wall hanging for a huge wall. I think those are fun too. Or some of the repositionable wallpapers have a big map murals that you can put on a wall. I think that would be fun also.
I agree.
Another thing to do is remove anything that is not old soul-ish, like wall-to-wall carpeting.
Oh, see, that's a very good one. I would not have thought of that.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely not old soulish.
Well, and I just saw a show on Netflix, and it's about these old manor houses in England. And some of these manor houses, they had updated, I'm using air quotes, in a horrible way earlier, in the previous century, like 1950, 1960, 1970. Some of those updates were dreadful. And so the current owner, spent years and years removing these dreadful updates and really kind of putting the house back in what it would have been like, before all the dreadful updates. So, yeah, I think that's something to think about, is if you have a really old house, is to think about, what would it have been like when it was first built?
Yeah. And so maybe go easy on the can lighting and things like that if you're trying to infuse old soul. I'm not opposed to can lighting, but I think it's useful type of lighting, but put it on a dimmer and then add in a lot of the other types of lighting, the task lighting and the ambient and the table lamps and things like that, because, overhead can lighting is not really going to have an old soul feel.
No, it is not. It's going to have
but it's nice to have as an option if you need more light. But throw those lamps in. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. If it's there, I wouldn't take it out. And I may, if you were renovating, I may even put it in some discrete places. But you don't want to have track lighting or can lighting if you're going for the real old soul look. Another thing you might want to consider is in the bathrooms, not using standard vanities. Find an old chest of drawers,
I love this.
I really like that look, and I think that would look nice in almost anybody's home.
Well, and what I did in our downstairs bathroom is I made it open, so there's a basket of towels underneath the vanity, and it's got legs, and you see the piping there, so it's all open. I think there's a lot of things you can do. And definitely if your vanity is not a piece of furniture, just have something made that looks like a piece of furniture. And now there's so many options. You can just buy something pre-made.
Yeah, but it's really inexpensive to just find something at a thrift store or an estate sale. There's how many, cast off dressers or things like that are there. You just have to be
True.
Aware of the height. You don't want it too high. So try to get it maybe 30,
but you don't want it too short either.
Don't want it too short either.
And you have to be careful of how your plumbing runs in your house.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So all they really have to do is cut a circle in the top for your sink, drop the sink in, and then if there's access, usually underneath, you can either take the drawers out, or if there's cabinets underneath, they just open those up and then they can do all the piping inside. You may lose the functionality of a drawer or two if it's a chest of drawers, but the look is fantastic. And, if you can get the dresser for $25 or something like that, and then you're just going to buy yourself your sink and faucet.
Well, here's the other thing. If you have, let's say, and we're looking at redoing our master bath, and I think I'm doing it very clean, like white marble, no door on a shower, like an open big shower. Our bathroom's pretty big, and I'm thinking, so it's going to be very white, very classic. But then here's what I'm thinking. Oh, wouldn't it be beautiful if I just took a huge, long, big dresser and did a double vanity in it?
Oh
yeah. See, that's what you can do.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be gorgeous. And that would be such a great way to add an old soul.
Yeah, with all that beautiful white.
Bathroom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'd be great.
Yeah. And, again, I need to mention it, but while we're in the bathroom, Subway and Hex Tile is always going to have that old world look, that old soul look. And it's going to be a classic, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I'm going to throw in there that, again, something that makes me think of the turn of the century, 1900s, is marble. So I think marble would go very well in there.
I think perhaps this is all what I have in my house. Thank you.
There you go. See, you're just so on trend
unlacquered brass.
Yeah, and I have that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the unlacquered brass is great. But even if you didn't want to deal with that finish, which is something you have to have a little patience, and you have to go with it. You have to be as we're saying for this year, wabi-sabi about it. It's perfectly imperfect, but the style of your faucet, even if you wanted to go with a chrome or a brushed nickel or a brushed brass or something like that, bridge faucets also have this old soul look to them. Those are the ones that are sort of connected and stand off.
Yes.
The surface
Put that in the
it.
show notes.
Yeah, those are gorgeous.
And a mirror that I think goes both ways, that goes with very formal French, but also goes with a transitional style, something more classic, that's not more like Yvonne's, which is classic, and more of a clean look and not doesn't have vintage things, would be to go with a Louis Philippe mirror. I think that crosses all kinds of
So can you
well.
describe for the listeners what
right?
Exactly
So a Louis Philippe mirror, and I'm talking about a Louis Philippe style, so it doesn't have to be a real antique. But a lot of places, I think Ballard Designs and a couple of their places sell them, but it's curved on the top and squared off on the bottom. And sometimes it has beading along it. Sometimes they're gold, sometimes they're silver.
I think
it's a beautiful, very simple mirror.
Almost generic looking in a beautiful way that
it's classic. Yeah,
absolutely a classic.
Yeah, embracing the patina. It's interesting. I mean, not everyone loves that look, and I'm sure there's people that are listening to us that maybe that is not their go-to look, but there's something about having something with some age in it that I really think grounds a room. So I do think that incorporate even in little ways, like Yvonne's saying, like an ironstone pitcher, or it's just something that has some history to it, like a bundle of letters, or some little things that really harken back. It really adds a sense. It's almost like it's an intangible sense to a room and to a home. And I think we've given you a lot of tips today for achieving that, whether that is your sole focus of how you want your home to look, or if you just want to add a little
your sole
tweak.
Focus.
Oh my goodness. I didn't mean that.
Well, right. And so, we talked about adding things that are old with things that are new, but I think another piece that makes this work is adding the highs and the lows. The juxtaposition, like we said, the rustic with the refined. So I think that's another thing that really is helpful to keep in mind when you're adding these old elements to your house.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because that keeps it fresher. You don't, you don't want it to look like a museum. So it definitely keeps it fresh. There are, even if you're doing like a contemporary, more of a mid-century contemporary look. Okay, so you think, oh well, I'm not going to add a Louis Philippe mirror, or I don't want reclaimed wood, but something as simple as old album covers, frames you did from the era.
How fun is that?
How fun would that be?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. So when we are saying old, our
old is relative.
Old is relative. Mm-hmm. Young is relative as well.
That's right.
Our old, particularly Anita and I tend to overlap a little bit more with what we, the French lines and the antiques and the green sacks and all that. So we overlap a little bit more. And then Yvonne's old, which might be just in the little.
Did you just say
items.
Yvonne was old?
No, Yvonne. Did
I hear that
right? Yvonne's rendition of old in her home. It's still kind of like a farmhouse look, but there is, there are other olds too. There's a more modern old that people can use in their homes if it's a completely different look.
I agree.
Yeah, and I have to be careful when I go to the thrift store. I see a lot of old things, and it's fine line, because some things I think, oh, that's going to be add such a cool vibe. It's so old, it's going to be really new, cool, hip, cool looking in a way. But sometimes I look at things and think it might be.
Dare you say frumpy?
Right. That's what I was trying to avoid that word. Sometimes I look at something and think, oh, that's kind of cool.
Pregnant pause, like, I just don't think I want to say this.
I just don't say I want to say frumpy.
I know. So it's something, right. So sometimes I look at something, oh, that's cool. But then I'll think, oh my goodness, that's going to be so frumpy. I can't buy that.
That's the thing about using it in a new way, so instead of using the old thing the way it necessarily was intended, like you gave the example of your newel post. Well, we were left or inherited from the previous owner sections and sections and sections of this really cool, rusty old fence that he got from someplace in Ohio. And he wanted to encircle the entire front of the house with it. And he even had the holes made in the brick. But, in true form, he never finished the project. That's kind of what the house was like. Everything was sort of partially done or started.
I would love to know how many projects he really had going on at that house.
I know. It's amazing how many he had going in there, but never really finished.
You could write a book. A very interesting book. A very interesting book.
Had I put the fence that he was insistent that I use all around the house, we would have looked like the Addams Family.
It was that's what I was saying. You don't. There's some line you could cross.
Yeah,
you do have to
don't
be very
don't
careful.
Cross that line.
Don't
be
go
careful.
too much. You've got to mix it up.
Right. Inevitably, with the new year come wellness goals. One very effective and easy to reach goal is to add dose to your wellness regime. Dose is expertly formulated organic wellness shots that support your liver in one delicious drink. Formulated with ingredients clinically shown to support liver health. Potent turmeric, milk thistle, and ginger. There's 0 sugar and 0 calories. Did you know that your liver performs over 500 special functions? Since I learned all that my liver is doing, I started with Dose to support all those vital functions. I take a shot of refreshing Dose 2 times per week to combat everyday toxins from food, meds, alcohol, and unhealthy air. Since starting with Dose about a month ago, I am definitely feeling an overall improvement in my health. So if you want to give Dose a shot and invest in your health like I have, Dose is offering DTT listeners 15% off your first order, plus an additional 15% off if you subscribe for a monthly delivery. That's 30% off your first order. So go to dosedaily.co/DTT and use the code DTT. That's dosedaily.co.co/DTT and use the code DTT. Green Chef is a delicious delight any time of year, but especially during the holidays. What a wonderful vision to behold as the Green Chef boxes on your doorstep. Green Chef is the #1 meal kit for eating well. And it makes eating well so easy with plans to fit every lifestyle, whether you're keto, paleo, vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, or just looking to eat a more balanced diet. So let Green Chef take the work out of eating clean this holiday season. And if you've got guests coming, shop Green Bundles. They're now available at the Green Market. It's your one-stop shop for nutritious grab-and-go breakfasts, including vegan options, brunch kits, wholesome lunches, ready-to-eat snacks, veggie sides, and more. You can feel your best this December and do your best with Green Chef because they offset 100% of the delivery emissions as well as 100% of the plastic in every box. Go to greenchef.com/60DTT and use the code 60DTT and get 60% off plus 20% off your next 2 months. greenchef.com/60DTT and use the code 60DTT to get 60% off plus 20% off your next 2 months. So what I did with the fence is I wanted to pay homage to the fact that he loved the fence and wanted the fence there. So what I did was we have the front yard is small and there's just 2 strips of grass and then the walkway down the center. So very angular rectangles on either side. So I just put 2 runs each. So 2 sections each and had my carpenter, a guy, put it in cement in the front. So now it's not a fence really. Now it's just sort of something that holds up the vines that I'm growing and is right in front of the roses, right? So it looks really pretty and it gives some interest to the garden. And then we had the cool parts that were the actual swinging gate sections. So when we just got the outdoor fireplace, I said, oh, this would be perfect for the screen. So we just took the gate and it was the perfect height. So I just took the gate and I put it right in front of it. Now that's the screen to our fireplace.
Goodness.
Just think how close you came to being that house that all the little kids are afraid of.
Exactly. I would have to be out there cutting my roses off and throwing them away, cutting the flowers off and throwing them away.
Oh, yeah, like Morticia.
Yes.
I forgot about that.
Yes, that was her thing, right? She'd have a vase full of stems.
Yes, funny. I remember that.
That was a very clever show when you think about it.
Yes, yes.
Oh. So there is that. So we're really suggesting, add the interest, add the real materials, add antiques that have instant character. But also when you're talking about these sort of more quirky, older things, try to think out of the box and have different ways that you could use them, repurpose them in your home in a different way. Like Yvonne has done with, she has these molding sections, patinaed and chippy molding sections. And she just made a piece of art out of them.
Right. Well, and another thing that I really like that I think goes with our giving a house an old soul is to use very large artwork. And it doesn't necessarily have to be antique looking, but I think that goes along with this feeling of an old soul is to use big bits of artwork. Maybe you're doing what Kelly did and she took wallpaper and put it in a huge frame. So that's something else that you can do. But just something on a big, bold scale, I think that would be, and it would be a statement piece, which is what we talked about in a previous episode.
Or, you can get vintage wrapping paper. I mean, a paper that's new but looks very vintage. And something done, just put that in a frame would be just gorgeous. Or done in panels. Yeah, there's all kinds of things you can come up with if you just do a little brainstorming.
Mm-hmm. And I think we have lots of posts. I know Kelly and I have lots of posts on using vintage things in your home and antique things. So there's so many ideas of ways of things that you could use in your home and using things in different ways, like the Newell post that used to be a garden post for a fence. So thanks so much for hanging out with us. And I hope you got some good ideas today on how to add an old soul to your home. And if you've done this, and we'd love to hear any ideas you have.
Oh, yeah, that would be great.
Send us an email.
Pictures.
Yes, decoratingtipsandtricks@gmail.com. And remember, we're here to inspire you to create a beautiful home. Until next time.
Hey, everybody. We want to thank you so much for listening to Decorating Tips and Tricks. And we want to make it even easier for you to listen. And it's easier if you subscribe. You just click the subscribe button on our website, www.decoratingtipsandtricks.com, or you can subscribe through Apple Podcast or any of your favorite podcast listeners. When you subscribe, DTT comes free right to you 3 days a week. So until next time.